Everyone, welcome to Spurs Beyond the Lane. It has been a while, so we're going to do a transfer window update. The reason I want to do that is we are a number of games into the Premier League season. We've also had a couple of games in the Champions League, as well as our third round tie against Doncaster in the League Cup. And there are some glaring positions that just look like we need to bring someone in January. There are a whole stream of rumours going about right now about who we should be looking at in the January window. On top of that, we've had a load of rumours as well as field attempts to buy the club out. The last one being a £4.4 million note of interest in the club, which was rejected as all the others have been. So, what that does in terms of what happens in January, we hope what we'll see is that ENIC, i.e., the Lewis family, as well as the other investors, will be looking to spend some serious cash and backing up the things that they have said since Daniel Levy walked away from his chairman position. So, first on that list, and this one for me is a little bit of an outsider, but there are a lot of kind of news agencies now looking at us being the ones in the lead for this. Although I've seen a number of other things on top of that, and that is Mark Gahey, centre half at Crystal Palace. He is also their team captain. He is also out of contract in the summer. It looked to be a last minute move to Liverpool for him before the transfer window closed, but it never came off. There was a few things happening in the background. I think Palace couldn't get a replacement in, and the plug was pulled. Liverpool had bid around 35 million, I think, for him, but the move never happened. It is the club that he himself had said that that's the one he wants to sign for. However, as I say, there are various news agencies now suggesting that Spurs are in the lead for it, with Thomas Frank really wanting to reinforce the back line in January, especially I think with light of Romero's wee niggles that didn't see him travel during the week there. Danzo is a very good understudy, but I think for most positions you're wanting to have at least one person. So if you have two centre halves, you want to at least have two capable, ready-made players that can step in. The good thing about Gahey is that he can also provide leadership into the squad. And if we're looking for a purchase in January, we could be looking somewhere within the region of 20, 30 million. He is an established centre half for England and is probably one of the best centre backs that we have in the country as well. So it makes perfect sense to go for him. But I also seen a recent story as well suggesting that he wants to move to Real Madrid. And Real Madrid are the masters at bringing people in on free transfers. So you might actually just see him seeing out the season and potentially making that move abroad. But January is a good wee while away, so you just have to wait and see. As I say, it is the one for me. It's probably a right outside chance of it ever happening. As well as I say, he favours a Liverpool move, or did at least in January. But we'll wait and see on that one. Up next would be a young Argentinian centre forward that we have been linked with recently, and that is Matteo Pellegrino at Parma. 23-year-old young lad, doing reasonably well at Parma. The suggestions seem to be that we're looking at him. I don't see that being a viable option for us. They're probably going to be wanting somewhere in the region of 30 to 40 million for him. And from what I'm hearing and seeing elsewhere, is they're not wanting to sell him in the January window as he's key to their plans for the rest of the season. So again, I think it's just one of those rumours, especially when you see that our centre forward line isn't quite where it should be. Richie is tired. He's needing a bit of a rest. Tell isn't quite filling that gap, and Solanke and Moani are both out injured, but he is an out and out centre forward, which gives us something again a little bit different up front. But I don't see this one happening personally. But if it does, we would wait and see the Argentinian contingent getting a little bit bigger at the club as well. But the big one, I think, for us, and I've mentioned in a few videos so far, is that left wing role really hasn't been cemented by three players at the club who are vying for it. And for me, the big signing, and if we only make one signing in January, for me, it has to be Semenyo of Bournemouth. 70 million plus will get the deal done. January hits, I would be straight in there, slap 70 million on the table. If they come back and say, I want 80, give them the 80, sign him. He is a fantastic player. He's doing fantastically well for Bournemouth as well. And he ripped us to shreds when they beat us 1-0. So it makes perfect sense to go after him. We did in the summer window there. He signed a new contract, but that doesn't matter. If they get the money, give them it, give them what they want, get them through the door, and let's get that left wing position sealed and done and going forward strongly on both wings. Next up after that is, and I think this one's probably a bit of an outside chance, and probably because we were linked to him a good while back before he actually signed for them, and that is Arda Güler at Real Madrid. The 20-year-old Turkish international midfielder is struggling to break into the Real Madrid team this season and is supposedly unhappy about the situation. What you might actually find is that it would probably be more reasonable would be a loan signing in January, if of course the rumours are correct. He is a fantastically talented player and one I would love to see at Spurs, but he is very much in a similar vein of mould as Xavi Simons. So whether or not we would seriously be looking at bringing him to the club is a different matter. But such an interesting and exciting young talent, you would not say no to it if you were able to get him for decent money. The problem is Real Madrid are probably going to be looking at 60 million plus for him. And for a 20-year-old, I probably can't see us spending that kind of money when we really need people that can step into the breach right now and contribute to the team. Plus, bearing in mind, Kulusevski should be back in training and selection before the January window. So I don't see that as being a realistic option. But if we can get him on loan, I would definitely take him. Because if we do manage through the Champions League stages, it is a fantastic option to have to rotate in and out of the squad, as well as potentially on the bench, if not starting. So, yeah, really good option. Whether or not it happens, I can't see it being a permanent signing. But we said the same thing about Xavi Simons when Chelsea were interested, and look where he went. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest is one that I seen today being linked to us. The recently captain squatted international for England is making waves in the Premier League this season and is a player I really like seeing. The problem is that I think we have quite a fractious relationship with Forest right now, thanks to the handling of their chairman with the Morgan Gibbs White scenario where we tried to cite him and the way things went during that transfer. So I don't see that as something that will actually happen. Plus, we're also looking at clubs like Newcastle and a few other teams actually interested in the player as well. So I think they would probably prefer to sell him to Newcastle than see him cross the pathways of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But a really good young player, doing very, very well. He's got that Premiership experience, so it kind of makes sense if we could do it, but I just don't see it due to the relationship we currently have with Forest. There are big rumours, and they've been going on for quite some time, that Harry Kane will be making a return to Spurs in the summer. I really don't see him coming back to the club. If I'm being honest, I think this is all talk and chat around trying to get him to sign a brand new contract at Bayern. There's also rumours that Real Madrid and Barcelona are both interested in signing him as well. But if you have a look at what both those clubs have got there in terms of talent in the centre forward department, plus Kane's age and the fact they'll have to pay 50 to 60 million to sign him, I don't see either of those clubs going for it. Manchester United and Liverpool are also being linked with the player. However, Liverpool have just spent nearly 200 million on two centre forwards, so they're not going to go and spend another 50, 60 million for Harry Kane. Manchester United, just this way their squad is and the fact they've spent over 200 million on three attackers, they are not going to go and bring in Harry Kane. The way they're playing with Amorim at the minute, he will not fit into the way that they play at all. Realistically, Chelsea was supposedly after him, but I don't see him going to another London club. he was being linked with Arsenal. It's just not going to happen. Having been at Spurs, it just isn't worth it for him. And to be honest, at Spurs, would we take him back? You're absolutely right. We would. The way things are going right now, you would take him back in spades. In fact, you would go over there and collect him and bring him back yourself. But again, I just don't see it happening. I think he'll sign a new contract with Bayern and put it to bed, and he'll finish his career over there. So after that, we're then looking at the game midweek there against Bodo. There was one player who absolutely tore us to bits. If you watched my analysis video of that game on Tuesday night, then you will see I was absolutely raving about this guy. Jans Peter Haig has been phenomenal in that game against us, scoring 2 goals. He was just a threat all night. He was hitting them from range. He was getting into the box. He was creating opportunities for teammates. He was just doing so much work for that team, and it caused us headaches non-stop. Rumour mill at the moment is going full tilt, more likely so because of some of the comments that were made by Thomas Frank and the player in interviews afterwards, where it was noted that Thomas Frank actually tried to sign the left winger when he was at Brentford. He did make a big move from the Norwegian leagues to AC Milan, signed a 5-year contract in 2020, but that didn't work out particularly well for him. A few loan moves. He went out to Frankfurt, same, and it just didn't work out for him. Now, you could potentially say that was 5 years ago. He would have been quite young at that point, being 25 years old. So, moving out and into the big times from a smaller league doesn't always translate particularly well, especially if they're not being given the time to acclimatise to the people, the culture, as well as the club and the league. So, I wouldn't look too harshly on that, because he showed in that Champions League tie against us that he could go up against Premier League opposition and be dangerous and deadly. It was a move to Brentford that didn't quite materialise. There were conversations taking place. The player did actually speak to Thomas Frank, but the move just didn't happen for whatever reason. To be honest, as I have already said in this video, and I've said in many others, the left wing and the left side of our team is a real big concern. And if we could get him, he would be a cheaper alternative to Semenyo, but the difference being that Semenyo has that Premier League experience and rips teams to bits on a regular basis. There would be a slight risk involved with bringing Hauge to the Premiership in that. But if Thomas Frank has already thought about it for another Premiership team, he's obviously done the work in the analysis on the player to see whether or not he would fit it. And we're already seeing the same type of systems and tactics being deployed at Spurs. So the player could, if you could get him for maybe 20 million, then it wouldn't be a bad punt to make. But Norwegian players leaving those leagues and coming into other divisions normally don't fare particularly well. But at the end of the day, he did show against us. So I think over the next coming months, I know I'll certainly be keeping an eye on the Bodo Glimt games. And if I have the opportunity to watch any of them, if the Spurs game isn't being shown, then I'll definitely be watching them, because they were very good against us. And with this in light, I'll be keeping an eye on that player to see actually what does he do against other high-class European opposition as well. But an outside chance of that one going ahead. And I don't think the player would say no, especially if the previous contact with Thomas Frank has been quite positive. And to be honest, it would be a step up, not just in wages, but in game time as well, and potentially a route into the Norwegian national team as well. Another one that we have been looking at previously in the summer, links kind of in the previous January window as well, is Hayden Hackney of Middlesbrough. The midfielder has continued his vein of form from the tail end of last season into this season for Middlesbrough, and has been playing exceptionally well. Michael Carrick, former Spurs Manchester United player and former manager of Borough, has been very highly praising the player in terms of the contribution, the consistency in the play, as well as just his all-round game in particular, and has been saying that the player has such a high ceiling in terms of potential. The Championship is a very difficult league to play in, so he will be battle tested. It is thick and fierce and highly physical, so making that step up from the Championship into the Spurs with a small amount of time for acclimatation should not be a problem for the player. I've seen him in a couple of games and I really like the look of him, and I think he could be a very good understudy for Polina and actually giving him some time to rest during the course of the season as well. Fee probably in and around 20 to 30 million for him. In terms of his contributions at Borough, it's 122 games, 11 goals and 11 assists. I say he's not really a creative type player, but he does have the ability to open up outlets as well as put the ball in the back of the net as well. He's an English player as well, so it kind of ticks a lot of the boxes for what the club might be looking at and would be a really good squad addition for now in the January window, with the potential of maybe understudying, as I say, for Polina or even others, giving them game and rest time. But again, this is a player with a lot of other Premiership teams looking at him as well. So if there is any kind of moves starting to happen, you could see a bidding war opening up for the player, but would be a very good option for Spurs in January, I think, as well. The final player we're going to look and talk about in this video, and I'll start putting a few more of these out now that the season's really underway, is a centre forward, a very young lad, and to be honest, a guy with an eye for goal. But there's a few wee nuances around that as well, and that is Samu Agihoa. I apologise if I've said the surname wrong. It's not one that I've come across an awful lot of, and is a wee bit difficult to try and pronounce. But the young lad plays for Porto in Portugal. He is Spanish, 21 years of old. 21 years old. He has scored 32 goals in 52 games. Very, very prolific in the Portuguese league. Currently, this season, he has played 6 games and scored 5 goals as well. So, it's certainly a rich vein of form in terms of putting that ball into the back of the net. The last game for Porto was a 4-0 win away from home, of which he had 1 shot, scored 1 goal. So, he certainly looks like a young player who can take the chances that are presented to him. I know some people will be looking at the Portuguese league and saying it is an inferior league to the Premier League. Yes, it is. But we're already seeing some players that can make that successful transition from the Portuguese league into the Prem. And Gyökeres at Arsenal was one there was a big question mark over, and he certainly seems to be putting the ball in the back of the net for them. So there's no reason why a young lad, given the time to acclimatise, could be a really good understudy for Richie and Semenyo. I would be looking for someone personally a wee bit more older with a bit more experience with the eye for goal, more as an out and out centre forward. But this young lad certainly ticks the boxes in terms of that. It's whether or not, if we were to bring him in, could we make that successful transition from Portuguese football into the English Premier League? That for me is it for this video. As I say, I will look to put a few more of these out now that things have kind of started to settle into the league. We're starting to do a lot of things, and you can actually see gaps opening up in the squad, the first 11, where we will need reinforcements come January. Some of those positions are potentially based on what the recovery times look like for some of the players coming back into the squad, notably Dragusin, Katai, Kuritakai, as well as Kulusevski. So it'll be interesting to see how that January window goes. And as I say, as more rumours start to surface, things start to look a wee bit more concrete, we'll put out a few more of these videos because they're quite nice to see and to hear some of the things that people are looking at, as well as where the supposed people in the know are starting to point the finger and go, well, actually, Spurs are interested in these guys or those guys. Basuma is injured, whether or not we might see him make the move in the January window if he comes back. But it looks like he's back into training, or at least starting to approach training, to the point he might even be looked at for consideration. And to be honest, in some of these games where we're hitting the Champions League, where we're looking at resting Polina, he would be a decent option to start games to do that, especially if we can get him back on track and actually playing football properly, because when his head's in the game, he is an absolute monster in that defensive role. The problem we have is it's the inconsistency and the attitude to see. And if you want to sell him, you need to put him out there as well. So we'll wait and see. Anyway, guys, that is the video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Maybe you'll go away and have a look at some of these players and think and have a look and see, are they actually worthwhile being tied into the club would you like to see them come, and things like that there. Let me know what your thoughts are on those players. Who would you like to see? Is there anyone out there that you've heard the same rumors that we haven't mentioned about today? And let us know in the comments down below. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching the video. Come on, you Spurs.